What's up? Welcome back to Talking Nutrition, episode 35 today. Another Q&A. We've been catching up, and I think we're getting towards the end of our long list of questions. So we're doing our best here. Plus, we just like Q&As. But before we get into it, what's up, Kristine?
Nothing. Just this morning was no, a lot is up. This morning was I'm just having a crazy busy morning. So what I've done is I've got like around right now I have 31 clients. And that's usually like my max is like 35, but like right now, even like this is a lot for me. It just kind of depends who's on your roster, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
But what I did was I used to do like a smaller amount of check-ins each day, right? So Monday to Thursday, Sunday to Thursday, I would do check-ins. What I've done is I still do check-ins each of those days, but I'm slowly dwindling Monday. So like Monday, I only have like 2 check-ins. And then I use that as a day to work on my business. And so what I've done is I've like really filled Wednesday or Tuesday and Wednesday. And so it's heavy.
Oh, I feel you. Yeah. That's Monday and Tuesday for me. Like I tried to knock them all out on Mondays. This is like, I think like a year and a half ago, 2 years. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. Cause like all day you're like doing check-ins and shit, you know?
Yeah.
And I was also talking too much back then. So I would sometimes do like 20, 30 minutes videos, you know? So, so it was a long day, you know?
Yeah.
Now I'm trying to stick to like Mondays and Tuesday. I prefer that just to kind of get it done. I do people who check in on Sundays, I'll do them on Monday. People who check in on Monday, I'll do Tuesdays. Yeah. And then kind of like the rest of the week, we're still emailing and stuff, but I'm focusing on content, writing stuff, creating shit, you know?
Yeah.
And building out the educational part, which has been going pretty good. Knocking out a couple of videos like a week, like one to 3, let's call it, you know, from like mid-December, like since December, I should say. So it's getting there.
Nice.
I just like doing that stuff. It's fun. It's also like a lot of work, but it's rewarding. You know, it's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you get your new website up?
No, not yet. It's in the process.
Okay.
It's in the process. They're still building it out right now. Yeah.
Cool. Unrelated. I was thinking about this on the way back from the gym just now. Have you been watching any series recently?
No.
No?
No.
I've been really addicted to, have you watched the Yellowstone at all?
Well, I try, but I just fall asleep.
Oh, really?
I have a really hard time staying awake and watching shows. Like anytime at night, like we'll start something at like 7 and I'm like falling asleep.
Yeah. I've had those moments recently as well. No, like,
but Eric loved Yellowstone.
Show. It's great. Yeah. I binged that, and then that was like the first show I binged like in a long time, you know? Mm-hmm. And then I saw, okay, they're going to do like a spin-off, which is 1883. Watch that, which was even better. Yeah. Binged that in a couple of days, basically. It was like a weekend, you know? Then they did another spin-off.
It's good to do sometimes, though.
Yeah, it's good. I'm like trying to force myself to take breaks because it's been a lot recently.
It's needed.
For sure. I legit got like physical symptoms from stress like last December. So I had to like dial it down just a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
But then they did another spin-off, which is 1923, which is even better. So I'm just, I've been binge watching a lot of shows recently. It's good.
Nice. Yeah.
The weather's been shit. My split board has been catching dust. I know how the winter's over there. I know I'm like all over the place here. We're just catching up, but like I was like, okay, this winter, you know, I'm in a good spot with business. You know, I don't have to like work like all day, every day, like until the evenings and shit. I'm gonna go ski more, you know, or split board, I should say. And then the weather's just been shit. Like we got a whole bunch of snow, and then it's like rain the next day, and it's gone again. Then freezes over, we get snow, and it's just like it repeats, you know?
Jeez, that sucks.
So I'd like to go outside more, but it's just been inside and watching series.
Yeah.
Is Rose breaking down your studio?
Yes. Can you Rose, stop it. Come here. Rosie. Sorry. Yeah, she chews metal. She loves the taste of metal.
Jeez.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, enough random stuff. Q&A today. So we'll try to run through these relatively quick. We are going to start with a question about emotional eating.
Okay. Is that the one we're starting with? I thought we were starting with the supplement one.
Go ahead. You're good.
Okay.
I just moved it.
Okay, got it. Okay, so emotional eating. This question was simple. Where did I put this? Sorry, I'm all over the place this morning. How to overcome emotional eating. Loaded question because this is very dependent just with the person and, kind of what they're going through. What I will say is that, emotional eating can be, it can stem from negative experiences and it also can stem from positive experiences. Okay. So like, for example, I have a client who kind of deals with both. So he's a hockey coach and like when they win, he doesn't, we've worked on this. So he's come so far with it now, but like he would emotionally eat when they won, right? It's like a celebratory kind of thing, right? But same type of thing when they lost. So he was experiencing both. So you can definitely experience both. This can happen on like birthdays and like whatever it is. But when it comes to emotional eating, really like the truth is that it actually is normal. It's like a normal process, but it isn't like inherently bad. I think we get this like, and we instantly think that emotional eating is bad, but it is a normal human response. I'm hearing myself.
You're good.
Okay.
My bad.
It's okay.
Until now, like that whole time you were talking, I couldn't hear you, so I was trying to figure out my audio.
Okay.
That's good. You're good.
Okay.
Sorry.
So like, I think obviously, if it's really, really impacting someone's life, then yes, it's going to be something that's, a negative experience for them. In terms of like how to cope, bringing awareness, I talk about this a lot. I mean, it's with any situation, honestly, awareness and mindfulness around those types of situations is so important because if we don't know what is causing it, how are we really supposed to come up with like some sort of solution? Right. So we have to like really observe what is happening. And that can be hard, when you're kind of in this emotional state. Something that I've used a lot with clients, I think I've talked about it on this podcast before, is like this 20-minute tool. And again, it's a skill, right? It's something that you get better at in time. But I've had many clients that have dealt with emotional eating and we've implemented this and it's really helped a lot because it gives you an opportunity to observe and like work through emotions and create space between like emotion and acting on that emotion essentially, right? So the 20-minute tool is like, say you find yourself getting really emotional. It's almost if then planning can come into play here too. So say you find yourself in an emotional spot. So if I'm emotional, if I find myself emotional, I find myself starting to gravitate towards food, you can literally like set a timer, like a 20-minute timer. And within that, you delay the action, or the behavior that can come, with being emotional. So within that time, really you start to just become more aware of like what's going on, right? And like you're able to deal with the emotions, or maybe not like deal with the emotions, but become more aware of like how you're actually feeling. And a lot of the time after that 20 minutes, we'll see a decrease in those emotions. Usually like peak emotions, they'll start to decrease after that 20 minutes. And so usually after that 20 minutes, we tend to feel like we actually don't need the food. And within this time, you can, do something to kind of remove yourself from the situation. So you could go for a walk, for example, or like you could call, a friend, and you don't even necessarily have to talk about what's going on. Like you definitely can if you have someone that you trust, and kind of just talk about it. Or you can grab a piece of pen and paper and start writing about it. And that way you're starting to understand what's happening. And really like taking an inventory around, what's been happening too. Like another big reason we can find ourselves emotional eating is like lack of sleep. Like that's a really big one that like a lot of people don't put two and two together. So it's like, okay, did I, have poor sleep, or like what's going on, right? So anyways, you're delaying that time. And so this is a good tool. I really, really like it. It's helped a lot of people. This is kind of similar. So it's called the S.T.O.P method. So it's called like S is for stop. And then T is for take. And then O is for observe. And so when you find yourself coming into those emotional feelings, stop. Okay. If I'm emotion, stop, take a few breaths. Okay. Get in tune with your breathing. And then observe. So again, it's very similar. This is just an actual like method in research. So what are your thoughts, or what thoughts are going through your mind right now? What is your focus? What is your focus of attention? What are you reacting to? What sensations do you notice in your body? Right. So you're getting away from the emotional part. Perspective. So what's the bigger picture? What is another way of looking at the situation? What would a trusted friend say to me right now? Is this thought a fact or an opinion? How important is this? How important will it be in 6 months? And then proceed. What is the best thing to do right now for me, for others, for the situation? What can I do that fits my values? So these are all questions that you can ask yourself, right? And it can really, really help in kind of like that heat of the moment. But I think, with emotional eating, it's so, so important to figure out where it's coming from. That's really the first step. So these are definitely things anyone can implement, but it's still going to be definitely, dependent on the person.
Awesome. I think that's all super useful, because it's really easy to let emotions take over.
Yeah.
And stress, and kind of like, before you know it, shit happens,
100%.
Being able to stop yourself there, like that's going to be difficult, but like if you can practice that, and also know like, hey, I'm going to attempt to do this. Hey, maybe the first 1, 2, 3 times you won't even manage. That's okay. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's not easy to stop yourself.
No. Like if say you put these tools in place and then you still end up eating, listen,
try again.
That was still progress, because you put these tools in place. This is something that improves over time. It's like people with binge eating disorders. Like it's not about just stopping the binging right away. It's about creating more awareness around it. It's about, okay, did I feel like less guilty this time? It's about, okay, now we're seeing binges further apart. It's not just you stop binging, right? Because I think a lot of people, again, we live in this world of like kind of extremes, and they have these expectations
All
of
or
like,
nothing.
I need to stop binging tomorrow. It's like, no, like
Not gonna
that's
happen.
not how it works, right? We really have to build awareness around these things, slow down, practice more mindfulness, like observe your thoughts, observe what's going on.
Yeah, like that's exactly why I mentioned it, because we can't expect to fix things right away.
Yeah.
And for that reason, like you need to be aware of that too. For that reason, yeah, you need to be okay with that too, which is again even harder maybe, because then you're gonna try something and maybe not get it right the first time, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I love all this stuff. Like I learned some new stuff here too. So like I'm definitely gonna steal some shit.
Oh,
But
there's another one here too that I want to mention. It's called
yeah, go ahead.
cognitive reappraisal. So this is an evidence-based practice for combating emotional eating and promoting like emotion regulation. So step one is awareness. So you label the emotion, and you want to be more specific than vague in this. Okay. So the more specific, the better. So basically you distinguish between primary and secondary emotions. So like the first feeling when something happens, primary, and then the feeling about that feeling, secondary, right? So like what's a good example here? I'm trying to think of one. So I say like my emotion is, you overeat, that makes me sad. And then the secondary emotion, it's like, I'm a failure because of that, right? Like there's a primary and secondary emotion there. Usually the secondary emotion is more controlled, but often more dangerous, right? Because it's feeling that a certain emotion is right or wrong. So step two is like redefining what those primary emotions mean, noticing any fixed mindset language here, right? And then understanding that you don't have to act on emotions and that they can just be there. Same with thoughts.
That's a big one.
Like we don't have to always act on emotions, right? And that, again, that is where the S.T.O.P method comes into, and where the 20-minute tool. I mean, they're the same type of thing. And then the last step in that is like really accepting the emotions, right? So being emotional is part of being human. This is the same as like having bad body image days. Very normal and part of being human, right? Like it doesn't matter. We're gonna experience it. We're gonna experience this stuff, right? So suppressing them only makes things worse. Allow them to be felt, but be wary of that second emotion, right? And then how do you want to react to emotional situations, right? Like you can basically, again, if then plan for this. So you can plan for when this emotional time comes up and how we're going to respond to that.
Love that. You know what? Because we were going to keep it short anyway today. Like, let's just stay on this topic.
Okay. Yeah.
Because it comes up a lot, and I see this too in our community. Like, people answer questions, when they join, and there's a lot of stuff that's emotional.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of stress eating and like how to overcome that and how to overcome like binge eating. And I think more and more, like it's cool. I think that things like journaling, things like meditation, these kind of tools, like they're getting more and more like known, like slowly but surely,
Yeah.
And it is like the mindset side of things. Like that's why we did that course together. Like that's the hard shit, really. It's not macros. It's not, like it's not going to the gym. Like sure, that's a big part of what we do, but the mental side of things. And I talked to my client about this in the interview we did, which basically launches tomorrow for us, but it's the last episode for the listener. So episode 34, we talked about that stuff too. Like, sure, like we're achieving body composition goals, but that's only part of it. Like the changes we can eventually achieve if we work through stuff. And you might want to listen to that one too, because she worked through like, burnout and like there's a lot of stuff along the way. As hard as that stuff is, you need to somehow figure out, with help of these kind of tools, how to stop yourself, like how to not let that emotion become like a thing. Because you made a very good point. Like, it doesn't have to spiral into like a big, thing.
Yeah.
Which is easier said than done, let's be honest, but still,
100%.
We do need to sometimes also kind of not let it go too far and just be aware of that. And depending on the scenario, and like not always feel so sorry for ourselves, like kind of owning our shit, which again, like, it almost sounds harsh saying that, like, I even had those moments myself too.
Yeah, me
where
too.
I just had to pull myself together and be like, hey, calm the fuck down. Like,
yeah,
don't let this overtake everything. Like, work through it. So you gave some really good tips here to do exactly that. Work through those emotions, work through emotional eating, as uncomfortable as it is.
It's a very uncomfortable process.
100%.
But it's either you get uncomfortable and really start to overcome this with these tools, or you stay uncomfortable for who knows how long, right? It's kind of like, with nutrition and stuff, right? Like, choose your uncomfortable, choose your hard. It's like, yeah, it's going to be hard for a while, but then it's probably going to get easier, or you're going to, potentially end up with like disease if we don't take care of our nutrition, right? It's like, choose your hard, like now or then kind of type thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I don't want to come off insensitive, because this is a very sensitive topic, because we just don't know what people are going through. There's like trauma and like just so much stuff that can be popping up there. And so, there's kind of two sides to that coin. But another thing is being careful with identifying ourselves with these things.
Oh yeah.
So like, I actually get, this is something that I struggle with, because I've dealt with so many health issues over the years, like with my gut issues, or like, just different things like that. And so like, I start to identify or say like, I'm never going to get over this, or like, I have a gluten allergy. So I'm, just like, you're identifying with this thing. I have gut issues, and, they're never going to get better. So
in this case, like, I am an emotional eater.
Right. Exactly. So identifying with that can be a fixed mindset, and it can also keep you sick, right? It can keep you there. Like, you're identifying as an emotional eater, right? That can definitely have an impact on your progress forward. There's a difference between I am and I'm emotionally eating right now, and I am an emotional eater, right? Because you can be emotionally eating while also making progress, right? Yep. So
100%.
Those two things can exist at once. But I think the labeling is something that we have to be careful of.
True. And to go back to your point of like not being too insensitive, like, for sure. Like, that's why I use myself as an example. But like, they're just kind of like, again, we don't know. It's context, it's the person. But like, sometimes we have to do that and own our shit. Sometimes, obviously, we just have to kind of figure things out regardless. But that's a really good point, again, that you just made. Like, I'm currently working with someone. She recently joined, and it's been quite a lot to figure out in terms of, okay, there's some gut issues, definitely on the mental side of things. Like, there's definitely some stuff we got to work through. That's not easy. And we're looking at, okay, let's lose weight. There's a lot of stuff. Also endometriosis. Like, there's a bunch of different moving things here. And it's been, I want to say 5 or 6 weeks now. And she's lost a couple kilos already, even though we are not even focusing on being in a deficit. And I told her too, like, look, you're already losing weight. Like, that's your main goal here. Like, I know right now, currently, things have been pretty hard. And she's, oh, by the way, she's also doing shift work. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of stuff, you know?
Yeah, that's hard.
And there's so many different things to work on, and then it gets overwhelming. And that's where I also think that it's good to work with someone, maybe not even coaching, maybe even, you know, therapy or something, but like working through stuff, because that other person can actually show you and, hey, say, you know, we're actually already working through stuff.
Yeah.
And that other person can help you there and stop you.
It's that objective. It's that objective outlook.
Yeah. Because in this case, I could stop her basically and tell her, hey, like, look, we're already working through a couple of things here, and you are already making progress in terms of, hey, you didn't binge last weekend, first of all. You know,
yep.
She's currently on a, like, what can we call this? Like a non-binging streak, if that makes sense, you know? Like, it's been the longest since she's done that in a very long time. And she had one moment where it kind of happened, but also kind of didn't, because it was way less than before. Like, even those moments, like, that's still progress. That's huge.
Is
huge. And those things you got to remember too. Like, as you work through this stuff, also be aware, or maybe even have someone who can actually show you that shit and be like, hey, we're actually already making progress, you know?
Right.
Because again, it's not easy. And it's even for us as coaches, I feel like that's the hardest part.
Oh yeah.
Working through those things. Mm-hmm. Everyone can do macros. Right? Like,
yes. That is where the art of coaching comes into play.
100%. And going back to AI, like, that shit is also not going to be able to do that, I think.
Oh, gosh. No.
We'll see. No. I don't think so, at least. But either way, no, I think because I do have to go, to be honest with you.
Yeah, me too.
But it's been, you got a meeting as well. But this was a great episode.
Yeah.
And you brought up a lot of good stuff, so thank you.
I think this is something that we definitely want to continue this conversation, because there's a lot that goes into this. Like, there's even more in terms of, like, people who are, you know, chronic dieting and the emotional eating that comes with that. Yeah. And, like, you know, again, like I said, it's not always a negative experience. It's a positive thing too, where we can be technically emotional eating too. So there's lots of different things to touch on within this topic.
For sure. And again, so many people are struggling with this kind of stuff. So let's for sure do another one.
Yep.
Amazing. So to the listener, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to share it on your stories. Drop us a quick review. As always, you know where to find us. If you have a question, like I said, we are catching up now in terms of our Q&As. So we can actually answer your question pretty quick after submitting it.
Yeah.
So that being said, I'll talk to you soon, Kristine.
Thanks for listening.
Have a good day. And thanks for listening.